Namo manjo shiriye, nama so shiriye, nama o dama shiriye so ha. O namo manjo shiriye, nama so shiriye, nama o dama shiriye so ha. O namo manjo shiriye, nama so shiriye, nama o dama shiriye so ha. Tuge juna lai janjo mandu nani gyabsu che dagi chunye gibe sona ge rola benje sangge rupa shu chuna tuge juna lai janjo mandu nani gyabsu che dagi chunye gibe sona ge rola benje sangge rupa shu chuna tuge juna lai janjo mandu nani gyabsu che dagi chunye gibe sona ge rola benje sangge rupa shu Pege juji melo rang vira liji ni de gemba di sangye shindo mi de yuwa ye roge nanda shena juba shu ye tang kuru rana menda la kandi ataya mi.
Toma dunga dina singe dira tham chi ta sendi mano chi kadin chi ta mama ji ko chi jani bashi thandi ni cha je je mandi dewa ndo cha lando ko chi ni ma hi no de ga ti cha mundu je je mandi de chi kusu ko ba de na chi no de ba ju chi de ba ta sha de she ni ba la ma de shi sha ba ba ni.
All sentient beings have been our mothers. All sentient beings have been our mothers not just once, and all sentient beings have been our mothers for numberless times, not just once. All kind mothers sentient beings do want happiness and do not want suffering even for a moment. However, due to engaging the objects of abandonment and objects of adoptions wrongly, they create a karma that brings forth the result of suffering only. In our minds, sincerely generate loving kindness towards all kind mother sentient beings, thinking, how nice if all kind mother sentient beings had excellent happiness. May all kind mother sentient beings have excellent happiness. I will cause all kind mother sentient beings to have excellent happiness. Lama, please bless me to be able to do so.
Thirty is the one nice singe dira tham chi bo song chi munti ni cho ta da da cha na chi no Java Juju, Java Dagisha, Digashini Lama Nation.
Next, we cultivate compassion towards all suffering mother sentient beings, thinking, how nice if 3 doors of all suffering mother sentient beings were free from the all discordant class. May 3 doors of all suffering mother sentient beings be free from discordant class. I will cause 3 doors of all suffering mother sentient beings to be free from all discordant class. Lama, please bless me to be able to do so.
That is the one nice in the tongue to hold and so we do want to do this. Nella project that in a Santa Sanji company, but the summer is not about the Sanji and the Hino. This is a tragic in the Sanji company, which generally the Chinese silver.
Next, we generate bodhicitta. First, asking ourselves, who should take the responsibility to free all mother sentient beings from the sufferings of samsara and of lower realms? I should take the responsibility to free all mother sentient beings from the sufferings of samsara and of lower realms. Even though I should take the responsibility to free all mother sentient beings from sufferings, but I do not have the ability to do so. Who has the ability? Those who have achieved the perfect complete enlightenment have the ability to do so. Therefore, for the sake of all sentient beings, by all means, I will become Buddha. Next, we cultivate all-encompassing yoga mind, our aspiring conventional bodhicitta that thinks, for the sake of all sentient beings, I will become Buddha. These transform into a perfect round white moon disk at one's heart. And our ultimate bodhicitta, that is one's mind becoming in one place with emptiness, that all phenomena are lacking of inherent existence. These transform into a white five-pronged vajra on top of the moon disk. Next, we meditate on emptiness, that I exist neither intrinsically one with nor intrinsically different from the aggregates. Thus, I do not exist intrinsically. Next is to conjoin this session with the practice of 6 perfections. The first one is the practice of generosity. And generosity is mainly about the mind of giving. So for these 2 hours of listening, contemplating, and meditating on Dharma, I will give the roots of virtue that I will accumulate to all sentient beings. So not only conjoining with the practice of generosity, we should conjoin these sessions with the practice of morality as well. So during these 2 hours of listening, contemplating, and meditating on Dharma, I will abandon misdeed by not letting the physical and verbal misdeeds from manifesting. So the practice of morality is I will abandon the physical and verbal negativities by not letting them manifest. And next one is the practice of patience. So the patience is an undisturbed mind. So in these 2 hours of listening, contemplating, and meditating on Dharma, whatever physical and mental hardships that occur, I will willingly accept it. I will embrace it.
다 뒤지서 맞아 존지신 양이 생각이 다 내상고서 시비 값으로와 다 내상고서 시비 값을 다 가르 상고 가르 땅에서는 간다 내상고서 시바데 개와도와다 생지지 되셔야 치 이자 가와서 도와치 내상고서 시비 값으로와 다 내상고서 시바데 생지지 되셔야 시도 근데 이사 생각 가와다 또 이토는 전지 진마치 봐
Next is the practice of joyous effort. And joyous effort is the mind enthusiastic for virtue. So in these 2 hours of listening, contemplating, and meditating on Dharma, I take delight in collecting virtue and working for the welfare of sentient beings.
다 뒤지서 맞아 선대진 양이 시왔습니다. 다 선대서 가서 세계인이 막 가루질을 찍기도 님 가지고 뭐와 세계인이 막 가루질을 찍기도 님 가지고 좀 많이는 가서 선대진 양이 시고 당가서 내사고서 시비 가서 인진다 이거 소리가 내사고서 시비 가서 세계 개인이 봐 내사고서 시비 뒤 가서 세계 님 뭐도 세계에 너도다 너야와다 반만도와 된 도구는 바꿔버지 어떤지 세계기 미파라 상호야 보스탄 대토바이나 얘가서 상대ኛ이 샤왔습니다.
And next one is the practice of meditative concentration. And meditative concentration is mind single-pointedly focusing on any of the virtuous object. So during these 2 hours of listening, contemplating, and meditating on Dharma, my mind single-pointedly focusing on today's lesson and do not get distracted, such as family issue or work issue. So if in case my mind get distracted, I will bring my concentration back to today's lesson.
다 뒤지서 싫어진 양이 샤왔습니다. 다 싫어진 양이 샤왔습니다. 가서 진짜 뒤에서 다 내상부터 제비가라 시다 된 관리지나 때 예벌 시도 같이 남도 진에서 야보마 취하게 된다서 야보도 시도 가지 좀 많이나 싫어지 샤와있어. 싫어지 샤와서 가서 취를 넘번 지시서 레니 넘번 지시 싫어대 간다 싫어지 저다도 지키려고 뭐 들리지 시도 많이는데 맞아 피해시 당한 진짜 쳐다가 피해 산도 못 잡아야 힘 디시만 싫어지는 샤와스 난 진짜 지금 값도 집에 시다 될 감리 집에 예상부터 개발이나 되게 된다 시도 없이 들리지 제도바이나 이 싫어지는 샤와스です.
Next is the practice of wisdom. And wisdom is an awareness that thoroughly distinguish the phenomena or thoroughly distinguish the objects of abandonment and adoptions. And so during these 2 hours of listening, contemplating, and meditating on Dharma, I will properly distinguish the words and the meaning of the words and the objects of abandonment and objects of adoptions. And also, I will properly understand the benefits of doing so. So if we do so, if we have this in our mind, then we confuse this session with the practice of wisdom.
我当然是本金的时候，在一部的学过那些在学生科技主义都是明白的，就是上当头发一拿，上的这个另外一拿，但我也认识到，我真的出比给在的，在学生科技主义是不给在差不多的是吧？你给在的学生科技主义是不给在，但学生科技主义是不给在差不多的，朋友来交流那就去没事。
Yeah. So if we can really generate such attitude as I mentioned just now, then we really conjoin these sessions with the practice of 6 perfections. And since it is conjoined with the practice of 6 perfections, the benefits that we will receive will become extensive. Setting motivation. For the sake of all sentient beings, I will become Buddha. For this purpose, I'm going to receive the commentary on holy teachings, the Lamrim teachings, and practice accordingly in order to benefit sentient beings.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
So today we are going to talk about meditating on compassions. So meditating on compassions is under the outlines of actual generations of the mind striving for the welfare of others. So if we know this outline, this topic, or this division is under this outline, the actual generation of the mind striving for the welfare of other sentient beings, then we'll understand the meaning overall. So other than this, meditating on compassions as actual generations of the mind striving for the welfare of others, and previously we already talked about meditating on love, and we are going to talk about meditating on altruistic mind. Yeah, so when we talk about compassions, there are 2 types of compassions. So the first type is compassions wishing to free. So another way of saying this is compassions wishing to free sentient beings from suffering. And the second type of compassion is compassion wishing to save. So it means compassion is wishing to save sentient beings from suffering. So this second type of compassion is not just wishing to free the sentient beings from sufferings, and I will save them, I will free them from suffering. So it's not just wishing to free them only. So I will free them. So this is the second type of compassions, the compassions wishing to save. So the first type of compassion, even our hearts or hearers or solitary realizers, they have the first type of compassion. Compassion is wishing to free. So, however, the second type of compassion is the great compassion. Compassion wishing to save, or compassion is compassion wishing to save sentient beings from sufferings. Then it is a great compassion, and only bodhicitta. 讲述三把马都有嘛，意思啦。你把的，你这全部说的。
讲述三把的来呀嘛嘞，那这把全部的三把呀，讲述三把的结合嘛，好像都真的有。
Yeah. So then, however, the second type of compassions, not necessarily, the hearers and storyteller realizes they do not have the second type of compassions.
当我是对嘛学员的，好像你这个米巴说的，米巴的东啊是几里巴的东啊生气是，他东啊说的好像七八句东啊，是吧？还是东啊句东啊，我爹说的话，他得跟我学啥了？我等你东啊是几里巴的东啊，就是东啊是考虑这个那个这个世界的你这个边呢，你就接过来嘛，要还讲的，要不几乎得讲个等你这个是你就接是我们了，是吧？
So the observed objects of compassion are sentient beings who suffer due to any of the three kinds of suffering. So three kinds of sufferings we have already gone through. So sufferings of change, and pervasive sufferings. So the observed object of compassions are sentient beings who suffer due to any of the three types of sufferings, not not beings who who are very happy.
被小朋友我说，这中国人民的等你年纪就要搞来考不了吧？这中国被西点我们被地区推出什么？你别搞的，做了民的我说年纪结实呢，别搞来了吧？我等你年纪结实的，有的他东啊是都接着吧，等你东啊那是你起来，你就接过来是我的吧？那等我是强制是吧？ 爸想起爸爸做了你介绍把那个我吧。
So the observed objects of compassion are sentient beings who suffer, due to any of the three types of sufferings, right? So it will be difficult to observe objects such as arhats who experience excellent peace and happiness. As an object of compassion, it will be difficult to observe such object as the object of compassion. So similarly, then it will be difficult to observe Arya Bodhisattvas as object of compassion.
但你这个number的，他 number的，他等到工作习惯那些，东啊是最近那有，但世界东啊跌到，世界跌到，他东啊跌到的，查那 number 的。 자와 주지 넘어도 자와 샤오 넘어 주지 송 배우와 다 니지가 넘어도 다 다시는 니지가 점대지 니지도 무슨 따다 되는 상황 자냐 넘어도 대다 좀 말아 그랬어 자냐 넘어도 좋아 그거 자냐 다 자와 주지스 좋아 자와 주지 다도 말람 좋아 말람 자와 샤오 상이 지게 있어 들어와 자와도 위치가 있어 다 점대지 니지 다데 니 주지 순간은 상황이 다데 나 니지가 넘버지 어떤지 모르겠어. 다 간다 니지.
자주 많이는 디 당분이 되요래.
네 요라다. 당분이 되요. 저 디서도 용치고로 와. 요로 와. 다들 주지선상 당가서 나지 망부 다 니지 지다 망부 신경 다 장주 나리 인도라도 다 세는 예 받지나. 다 전다 도도 들려오로 와. 다 나리 나오는 송도. 니지가 넘버 동화 되다 신지 동화 되다 참여 넘버다. 자와 주지 녀마다 자와 샤오 녀마도 그래서 어디도 주지 소상하지 주지 소와
so its expressions is the thoughts, or another way of saying this is the subjective aspect of the mind of compassions is if only they were free from these sufferings, may they be free from them, and I will free them from them. So it's the subjective aspect of compassions mentioned in Lamrim teachings must possess these three qualities. So the first quality is if only they were free from these sufferings, may they be free from suffering, and I will free them from suffering. So these link to the compassions that I mentioned just now, the two types of compassions. So the first type of compassion, the compassions wishing to free. So arhats, they can have this first two types of subjective aspect. If only they were free from these sufferings, and may they be free from them. And I will free them from them, referring specifically to the third type of the second type of compassion, compassion wishing to save. So another way of saying this is I will free them. I myself will free them from sufferings.
南京高中这样我也记得的，他们年纪朋友啊，我那这样子南京下过了，我怎么的朋友啊，年纪朋友，哦，但我就地方里啊，我就前面是那开发的，得到过吧，假如就是那么来新旧老的说是我就说，双这个前面的那边就是这个，我也干了，是吧？对，他所说的世界的多产能那么的，产能这么的，假如大个小。 대다 시리바 라마라이 신질로도 소 우리 소소 보여야 돼 라마이도 그것을 신질로도 소소와 야 소득이 재미 동요와 뭐 내는 다바 동요와.
Yeah, so this is exactly the same as what we usually meditate on compassions. So at the beginning of the class, and we cultivate compassions, right? So exactly this. So if only they were free from sufferings, or another way of saying this is how nice it would be if they were free from sufferings, and may they be free from sufferings, and I will free them from sufferings. And on top of that, then we add another type of immeasurable, which is a immeasurable request. So immeasurable requests refer to the fourth line that we mentioned in the the beginning of the class, like when we do meditations, which is Lama, please bless me to be able to do so. Lama or three jewels, please bless me to be able to do so.
시도와 그때 있으면 뭐 진지거니 나 도망가서 민지리 휴 지역이 내라서 가능성은 자신 소소 하자 제도 최고여서 파마이나 제도 최고여서 나도 지난 자신의 제도 최기 파마로 와. 나 파마다 소소게 도부도모 가르면 제도 최상 연결지라 에 동아도 최고 때라 민지다 람사페 뭔가 휴휴지 내도 민지리 휴 최고지 내도 와. 나 때라 민지 휴 최고지 내어디 다 될은 니지 휴ቸ벌이 때 니지 양자 공부 지우디 예 라운드 자시 마치 때 바마서라 때 간다 동아들 레오디 때 소소근 자시여서 될라 예 동아들 들지는 될라 무세바 니지 유바 나시 때 바마서라리 뭐 아기도 때 간다 노디 바 튀제네 예 되니 니지 반 튀제네 두지야 이거 두고리 해시고 와 이거 로 장우디야 공부 지냐 장우디 때 담보 가서 자시 공부 인생이 되네 진짜 자신 지통 전부들 앞에 누가 최고 추유질래나 대배 마유를 신사사나시 누가 전부도 파샤 누가 전부도 이해와 누가 깡이 추주추나 대박 깡에 파세로 신사사 들리고 와. 다 밤만다고 지나 들이 추주질래서 파지 남에 다잖아. 자나고 질래바이나 파지 디 주나 단도 리 상사나 샤로 와. 나서도 마장디 뭐 들이 샤로 와. 들리선다 애들이 도망자 길어 보고.
So the sequence of the meditations is to meditate on compassions for your friends and relative first. So there are four sequences here. So the first one is your friend or your relative, then a neutral person, then your enemy, then all sentient beings of the 10 directions. So these are the sequence to meditate on compassions. The first one, starting with your friend or your relative or your parents. So because those are people whom we have greater affections or greater love. So those whom we love very much, and if don't mentions about experience great sufferings. So even if when they experience small sufferings, then we find it intolerable, we find unbearable as well. So first, we meditate on compassions in relation to your friend or your relative or your parents, because it's easier to generate compassions in that way. And compassions will naturally arise in relation to your friend or relative or your parents whom you have affections. Then after we generate the compassions to them, to friends or relative, then we extend the same type of then we generate the compassions to the neutral persons. So neutral persons, which we will, when they experience sufferings, if we do not cultivate compassions, usually we will neglect them, right? So then we have to generate compassions to them as a second object. Then you extend this compassion to your enemy. So similarly, if when we do not cultivate compassions, then when enemy experience sufferings, the usual attitudes that we might have is wish them experience greater sufferings or more sufferings. So enemies is the third object on which we cultivate compassions. Then we cultivate compassions for all the sentient beings of the 10 directions. So keep it in your mind. The sequence to meditate on compassions is starting with friend or relative or parents, then a neutral person, or another way of saying this is a stranger, then enemy, then sentient beings of 10 directions. So these gradual meditations on equanimity, love, and compassions, in which you differentiate their objects, was developed by the Master Kamalashila following the Abhidhamma Sutra. So the gradual meditation applies to cultivating equanimity, love, and compassions. And this is developed or stated by Master Kamalashila following the Abhidhamma Sutra. And doing gradual meditations has a great importance. So it is very important, because if from the start you train in observing sentient beings in general without dividing them into specific categories, it will seem as if equanimity and so forth have arisen. But when you then think about friends and so forth one by one, it will appear that they have not arisen for any of them. So if you do not differentiate the objects, and then you just straight away cultivate compassions in relation to sentient beings in general, it seems like the compassions will arise, and in fact the general compassions will arise even though compassion will arise. However, when you later focus on a particular sentient being, and then to cultivate compassions, then it will be difficult. So, like for example, to enemy, etc. So, if you do not do like this, first general, then only individual. So, instead of meditate on compassions in this order, you first meditate on compassions in relation to a particular sentient being. Then you extend it to a general one, so it will be easier to generate the second way. So you generate compassion to a particular being, then you extend it to other sentient beings. It's easier to do this than you meditate on compassion in general first, then individual.
단 그와 지 등한 거 공도 시사이 봐 등한 제상과 도상과 들이와 등한 부다 제의 도세 거도 저 시사려 그와 지 등한 삼 다 수시 등한 삼바서와데 다 간다 다 냐와리나 차당 등하다 이다리나 제공 등한 밀라이나 다 간다 밀라이나 다 간다 차와다 또와다 되게 와 등에 좀 올리고 간다 다 잘못이봐 뭐무시야 맞지 미 등하라 와 오다 돼서 간다 하다 미 아마 이거 수수라 등아 다 수수 등아다 지 등아 다 돼서 간다 야야 상황 땅어디 등에네 배 등아 지는 히 나오디 때때 니제 등원에 휴치치래 니가 치치를 와 what is
So the way to meditate is in terms of the sufferings that were explained when contemplating how the sentient beings who have been our mothers have fallen into existence and are experiencing the general and specific sufferings. So this talks about the way to meditate on compassions. So is by thinking again and again how sentient beings are who have been our mothers and experiencing the general and specific sufferings. So the general and specific sufferings we have already talked about before. So the general ones such as the 8 types of sufferings, the 6 types of sufferings. Then and individual sufferings such as the sufferings experienced by hell beings such as the cold sufferings and the hot sufferings, and the sufferings of hunger and thirst experienced by hungry ghosts, etc. So by thinking again and again how sentient beings are experiencing those sufferings, then it will cause our compassions to increase.
다 니지 집이 치도 고리 담보를 맞지 지송 들어와 다 고리 담보를 간다 니지 집이 치고 관계에서 이동이 보면 딱 하장 수수 찌든 제사 보다 보면 가위는 다 하더라. 그래서 하장 찌든 제사에 다 수수 주인이나 빈자이나 간다 참만을 돼야 돼. 지나 이동이 무슨 세신 예수 봐. 세신 예수 말이야. 다 수수 간다 이동이 다 간다이나 다 파마이나다 조모이나다 간디이나 다 수수 이동한테 하장 될때 다 맞대와 동아도 쳔빌레우리 때때 동아도 찬냠때 소소페 니지 샴바도 휴청모 쇼지레우와 휴청모 지빌레우와 왔다들이 들레바 나시 아 헤신지 니다 자 바마 강가라 바마 자 바마 신지 강가라 든디지페 너 니버 전부지 레투바이나 다 소소페 하자 이용기 에 부모 조모 바마 간디네 딜레페 동아다 잔디지 좀디지 든디기 휴청모 지레우디 대대 춤바 다 소소 조모 많이 봐 바마라 든디지레 바이나 나서 든디 니지레 바 동아 용바이나 다 자다 신지 다 많이 다 신지 긴다 강가라 든디지페 동아지 레바이나 델레페 니지 다라나 하시 휴청모 지레바이나 땅원의 니지 좀지야지 대간 살리고 있어 봐 나서 소소를 가사텔라 니지리지 바마텔라 마지바지 야 다텔라 니지 시다 메바이나 니지 집이체 나도 가는 니지 좀 집이체 되고요 말 와 그래서 자당 쇼리스 들어야 되게 니지나 붙여는 거와 니지 비다고 적어요 말아
So the measure of the arising of compassion is taught in the first stages of meditation. Compassion is complete at the point where it expresses itself as a constant desire to remove the sufferings of all beings, as if your beloved child were unhappy and operates naturally in you, spontaneously and in accordance with your nature, thereby it obtains the name Great Compassions. So here it talks about the measure of having generated compassions. So then as if your beloved child, so it could be your beloved child or any person whom you have great affection. So it could be your parent or it could be your friend, etc. So as long as it is a beloved object. So if when they experience sufferings, then we find their sufferings intolerable, right? So then you extend it to stranger, enemies, and sentient beings. So when the neutral persons experience sufferings, then you also develop the same types of compassions, wishing to free their sufferings. Then when enemy experience suffering, even enemy when they experience suffering, then you also develop same kinds of compassions then to all sentient beings. So if you develop same extent of compassions to not only your beloved one, to neutral, to stranger, to enemy, and to all sentient beings, then this is the measurement. So this is the measure of having generated compassions. So if you do not develop compassion in this way, and your compassion is only developed to your beloved object, your friends or beloved one, then this is not the measure of having generated compassions, because it is distinguished by attachment or anger.
But they can was Amal Mopishan Shibua. The Amasio the Susu Hacha President Chimbu Shudri. The President Chimbu Bindi, National, the Amal Fisher, Amal the Kadichi Shudri is a apparition also. The Shibu Sinjatan, Chanju City Lachiwa, Sinjatan Amanachi Pogua. Oh, the Amal Fisher, Amal Hachan Kadichi to the Petsewa, he the Mandabe, Chabo Be, Sente. Child, two other, the color comes on Rotan, on the country children, and Nimar and the Amadi who so Jatamba, don't tamba, so to sad, Kandarwa, also Kamil Matsiba. What the Dili Amadi is also Chukul Pet Sedu to Yobanashi, there's Dunga Chuchina, they do not the Chandis Sedu, Niji Yobanashi, that's in Jet Samala, the Niji Lebaina. Then when they Niji Chimbuchi, Sinin Sawadi, Chagri Yesibo, Niji Chimbuchi, Niji Chimbu. It's in its own way. But that Chadang Niji Chivaina, then you will not be you could show an Ashiwa. If you Chadang Niji the Shamba Chivaina, then Niji Chimbut in its own Chitwil.
So when we cultivate bodhicitta, then we also see sentient beings as our one's parents, right? So when we come to this meditating on compassions, so the compassions one's mother has for a child is is very great. So mothers love their child, love her child so much. So if a child is cold, then the mother will protect the child from cold and by giving warm, etc., by putting on clothes. And if the child is hungry or thirsty, then you bring water and food, etc. So if we think carefully, just one day itself, due to the compassions mothers has for her child, then in fact, mother has saved her child 100 times, more than 100 times in a day. So by giving food, protect from cold, etc. So, so that we should develop that kinds of compassions to all sentient beings, not just to our beloved one, to the stranger, to enemy, and to all sentient beings. So, if we develop the same kind of compassions toward all sentient beings, then the compassion is complete. So the compassion, the generations of compassion is complete. So, if we do not develop such kind of compassions, and if our compassion is affected by attachment or anger, then the generations of compassion cannot be said complete.
That in the song of the Nishivaina and as well, in the Sinji Tanjina and the song of the Dash and what Chimuchi would say that the issue of this or indeed, Shamba Chimuchi would say that was it. Was it the least song of the Lebaina Takada, Sinji Tanjin and Maggie Petul of Hajan Zedu, the one chamber the Leroy, trying to the Lebaina. The kind of Dutch and the Chamba Martin by the Leo because she said, Shamba Chimuchi said that was my little.
So if compassion toward all sentient beings naturally arises to the extent that it arises in a mother when the child she loves with her heart suffers, it is known as fully qualified great compassion, as what mentioned just now. So it should be known that this is also the measure of the arising of great love.
That's one bang also doing the Hassan. That's one bang Hassan. That's Shamba the Niji Bobita. That in Bali the Tambo Shamba the Niji. They go with that Hassan the Legua. That Hassan the Kanda Hachambe Dala Duji, you don't want this in that. The Pombada. That do not know. 동화 지나와 대 폼바 나도 솔라 컨담미니 하선 제와 하선 그 대화다 제보다 동화에 타바 샤냐도 예 수술 분이 코들라고 되다 하선데 로아 코들라고 되다 로이 코 치와라 타는 지정자 나 로장와 因为你这个是这个这上不嘛，因为你这个另外有送个呗，对，根据小话的，我看个老把张嘛一把，是吧？旅行个呢，现在真把嘛一个旅行桥我是呗，另外有送个吧，听不去你就这样去，第二个，电话都打个写的意思，另外的找的打个写的意思，你看到了没？这个还算是我是吧？还算是。 我的理想发生小，在这段估计去在的话。
Meditating on the extraordinary attitude or altruistic mind. So after meditating on love and compassion in this manner, then finally, so here it talks about first we generate love, and then second we generate compassion, then followed by generating extraordinary attitude. So finally, you will think, alas, if these sentient beings who are pleasant and dear to me are thus deprived of happiness and tormented by suffering, how can I give them happiness and how can I free them from suffering? In taking upon yourself the responsibility to liberate them, you train the mind at least through the mere words. So you focus on sentient beings who are pleasant and dear to me, and yet they are deprived of happiness and they are tormented by suffering. So these are the objects of meditations. Then you take the responsibility to free them from sufferings and to bring them happiness. So it's not just saying it only, it's not just reciting prayers and then just say it only. Then your body, speech, and mind should be in accord with this attitude as well. So I will bring them happiness. I will cause them to have happiness, and then I will free them from sufferings.
我在这里看到，真的都是我这拉上喜欢的，店长的这个多，世界上的电话在电报当，另外的找啊，打个小那个根据当家长的这个嘛，也是我那都么写的是吧？世界上的电话在电报当，另外的找啊的，小那个根据当家的这个嘛，也是是吧？他电话呢，你把它东啊是快的，当然记录的记录，你是被根据把生产切的。 现在去年我呢这个被升级比刚刚这个全部呢，我呢是被就同学去，他上升了，他最近你把那个说全这个手里就来接个唱累的我，他上的接菜接了，那我说最近你把的了全就手里我就来接个，那上车这个累的而且，我，
最近你把那上升的个，
这累的我吧。
So this extraordinary attitude or altruistic mind, so it's not just wishing to free them from sufferings, wishing them to have happiness. So it's not just it's not enough just to verbally make such promise make such promise make such determinations. May they have happiness, may they be free from suffering, etc. So on top of that, you make the determination I will free them. I myself will free them from sufferings. I myself will cause them to have excellent happiness. So if we develop such extraordinary attitudes, then the next moment then we are already very close to generating bodhicitta.
那等于讲说，他上个边，上个这边，讲说公这边刚才忙一把，听了这边刚才忙一把，公买这边干了，阳的上当呀，但听对吧的，听对吧呢，肯定呢，对大多数别上当的，这个情况也是我的，是吧？呀，去公这里去拉上去上过去当，这边那边当呀，对就都没办法呢。 这嘛，全部的妈妈娘的过来啊，为生锈嘛是呢，那个你把的妈娘的过来，那个你把也不要就养家工地点过来，工地没办法，这妈娘的过来是全部进入过来养家，我是被这落， 기로선 이야 이제 디스마다냐 템바 제로고도 다디 공리 아니야 이제 때마도 제로와 다디 지당 로당 제로와.
So you should practice it continuously and recollect it during all your activities, after sessions, and so forth, not just during meditation sessions. So we should cultivate those attitudes and extraordinary attitudes again and again. So not just in meditation sessions, and then we should also remember and meditate on extraordinary attitudes even after the meditation sessions. So in other words, saying this is during post-meditations, then we should always have remembrance of extraordinary attitudes as well. So if we do not, if we only cultivate compassion in meditation sessions, then during post-meditations, then we do not think about extraordinary attitudes, do not have any remembrance of extraordinary attitudes, then the strength of this attitude will become weaker and weaker. Therefore, it's very important to familiarize ourselves with such cultivations of attitude again and again. So it's just like, I'll say, it's very much relevant in our daily activities as well when we read text. So when we read text, then if we do not read again and again, then we tend to forget, right? So similarly, we have to cultivate again and again such attitudes even during post-meditations.
다 하자도 대지라 다 대지라 가지고 다 장주 때문에 좀 봐서 다 달아내고요. 다 하사도 배 아주 신지 동안 대화다 대화다 동화다 저와는 수수 콜랑이 인사 된지 별로 삼바 휴청보지와 다 휴청보지를 다들 휴청보지 레오디 다 양이 살롱 땅어디 다 신지 단지 대화다 대화다 동화다 저와 지 니바다 달안 두다 문두 살롱 땅어디 다 된지 니바다 달안 두스 내 내장 다 술안도서 다치 쩌고 다양다고 좀 상지지 공부 토나 니바도 누구산 뜻이와 다 상지지 공부터 니바 상지를 여봐 시오디 예신지 단지기다 대타도 봐야 돼 니바 상지라도 예신지 단지 때 상지지 공부터 제기 인사 님바 님바니 다 장주 세들래요 안 님바들래요와 안 님바데 진짜 단지기 때 상지지 공부터야 돼 네 제기 인사 내 간다 신대되는 님바들 레오 다 간다 장주되는 님바들 그러와 생지기 되더와 다 신대되는 님바들 가지고 줄어들어와 장주 때는 좀 님바들 조로 와 간다 이 뭐로 와 좋은데
그래서 생지기 된도 디 조로
다 담보 신대되는 님바들 레오와 신대되는 님바들 레오와 다 신지 되더 상지지 공부 신지 신기 되더서와 진짜 신대 때문에 상반스 간디스나 다 남힌 타다냐도 진짜 탄지지 되는데 다 지부기 제기 니 상태디 봐로 타치버지 다 신대 때문에 이바스 들지 상당하다 그와 남힌 타다냐도 진짜 탄지 다 남힌 타다냐도 진짜 탄지 되는데 다 지부기 때 두인 상태디 상반지라 다 신대 때문에 상반스 그와 남힌 타다냐도 다 되올마 딜리가 아주 장주되는 님바들만 시에가 딜리고와
그래서 디 장주 등얘기 뒷받세디 조로
어디 조로와
디 인상한테 디 신뢰 등얘기 뒷받이 디 조로
신뢰된 님바들 줄라 뭐라고
그래서 장주 등얘기 뒷받이 디 겐도 그래
조로와 자 장주 세세와들 님바들이 신뢰 님바들이 심바지 뭐 님바 되니 현대된 님바 장주된 님바니 심바죠.
저만이
님바니 심바오. 님바니 심이 조선지 나간다.
심이 장주기 심.
장주 세서.
Yeah, so training in the mind striving for enlightenment. So so we take the responsibility to free sentient beings from sufferings and to bring to cause sentient beings to have happiness, right? So we familiarize ourselves with this attitude again and again. Then at one point, then we will realize that we do not have the ability to do so. So first, you check whether I have the ability to do so or not. Then you will realize that oneself doesn't have it. Then you will check who has such ability. Then you will realize that those Buddha or those enlightened beings have the ability to do so. So, so for the sake of all sentient beings, then I will achieve the state of enlightenment. So then, such bodhicitta must be conjoined. Such bodhicitta must be endowed with two types of aspirations. The first type of aspiration is aspiration striving for the welfare of others, and the second type of aspiration is aspiration striving for enlightenment. So, which is the outline here, training in the mind, striving for enlightenment. So, aspiration striving for the welfare of others is a determination to free. Is the determination to accomplish the welfare of sentient beings who equals to sky, equaling to the extent of sky. So that is for the sake of other sentient beings, right? In order to accomplish the welfare of others. So I myself will accomplish the welfare of sentient being equaling to the extent of sky. Such determination is aspiration striving for the welfare of others. Then that is the cause, and then it is accompanied by the aspiration striving for enlightenment.
다 담보 현대의 말이나 저기 되는 누가를 두고 이 대기 공부다 현대에서 와라 먼저 담보 장바다 민지 하상 두서만 이 현대 장자이 봐. 와 현대된 거 우에 대비 장바다 민지 하상 두서이 봐. 와
현대 중요하게 된 거다.
현대된 로. 다 현대된 로 장바다 민지 하상 두서만 현대된 로 와. 와. 다 두서만 가다 현대된 로 자고요. 와. 다 나서때 다시 공부다 두서로 림바 장. 다 장바 민지 하상 두서 림바기도 장 와다. 다 두서 림바 장데 다 현대된 로데 다 가는 리바 칠칠이야 땅 와. 리바 칠칠 레오 와. 다데 하상드가 다 하상드가 레오디 다베 신기 되는데 리바 유야기 리바 전부 가로 레디로 와. 레디로 와. 하상가 레오디 신기 유야 리바 가로 레디. 다베 신기 탄지 대화다 대화 동화다 자와데 다 지기 때려고 다 소소 다치 지기 보지만 그러나 이 신기 탄지 대화다 동화다 자와데 제약이 리바데 수술한 두다 모두 속죄받지. 때죄받지 다 신기 탄지 되게 동화다 대화 대바데 리바데 그러나 모두 다 리바데 수라 열으면 그 양다바 좀 상지라 열어. 그 상지라 여바 신이 그 신기 탄지 되는 상지 공부하고 자기 이사 그 장주기 세들려고 한다. 그 장주기 신의 능력이 좋아.
그래서 저는 자주 돈 얘기 되면 등nguyên là lý do rồi.
자주 되는 되면
자주 돈 얘기 로 등nguyên là lý do.
전부 현대 되는 되면 다 화상 시리 봐. 그래서 레오디 장주가 세는 저기 단 두번 이게 레오로 와. 현대 되는 되면 다 장사로 와. 로사로 와. 그래서 현대 순간 장주 공부도 제일 장주 되는 되면 레오로 와. 레오도 와. 그 장주 공부도 제일 인사 레오로 한 장주 되는 되면 다 현대 되는 되면 가서 화상 가서야 마음보 로사 같이 제일 와. 다 화상 되는 신지 탄지 대화다 대바다 등하다 자와다 딱 지금 인사 되게 현대 되는 길로도 휴정부 되게 되어 와. 와. 다 된다 신의 말씀 능기 타다나 신지 탄지 되는데 아니 누구 인사 되게 현대 되는 길로 휴정부. 다 되게 내 차이지라 다 뭐는 저기 신지 탄지 등하다 자와다 대화다 그거보다 니보다 소소한 누구다 뭐 저거 저거 나한테 소소한 내내 내가 신이 뜻으로 해서 하다 봤더니 상지를 여봐 신이 왔다 대체도 내 상지 공부 타봐 지금 그때 장주 되는 좀 맞을 레고도 그 장주 생생도 와. 오, 나 현대 되는 좀 맞을 거 사서 당분이 너 사서
당분이 현대 되는
노사 내 만도랑 가서 신이 되어도 님바도 마수바 이랬대 신이 되어도 장주 토하는 게 받을 레고 와. 받을 레고 와. 근데 님바 장주 되는 좀 받을 나 간다 제일 레고도 와.
신이 또 얘기 되면 제일 레고래. 신이 또 얘기 되면 제일 레고나.
신이 되는 좀 당분 너 사서
장주 또 얘기 되면 제일 레고. Yeah. So yes, first we generate love, then we generate compassion, then we generate altruistic mind or extraordinary attitudes, then those are the attitudes striving for the welfare of others. So, this extraordinary attitude is, I will free them from sufferings. I will cause them to have happiness. So these three, love, compassion, and extraordinary attitudes, are the attitude striving for the welfare of others. So after we meditate on these gradually, then when these attitudes striving for the welfare of others getting more and more, getting stronger and stronger, then you will ask yourself, do I have the ability to do so? Then you realize that you do not have. Then you check who has it. Then you will realize that the enlightened being has it. Then for the sake of all sentient beings, I will achieve the state of enlightenment. Then that is a bodhicitta, and that is aspiration striving for enlightenment. So first, it is aspiration striving for the welfare of others, then followed by aspiration striving for enlightenment. So love, compassion, and extraordinary attitudes, they are attitudes striving for the welfare of others. So they are attitudes striving for the welfare of others. So in brief, when once develop the attitude that I will free them from sufferings, I will free sentient beings equaling to the extent of sky from sufferings, and I will cause sentient beings who are equaling to the extent of sky to have excellent happiness. Then this attitude is aspiration striving for the welfare of others. That I will free them from sufferings, I will cause them to have happiness. So this is aspiration striving for the welfare of others. Then in order to achieve this purpose, for this purpose, I will achieve the state of enlightenment. So this attitude is aspiration striving for enlightenment. So you can see the difference, right? One is aspiration striving for the welfare of others, thinking that I will free them from sufferings, I will cause them to have happiness. Then aspiration striving for enlightenment is, in order to achieve this purpose, in order to accomplish this purpose, I will achieve the state of enlightenment. Then this attitude, I will achieve the state of enlightenment for this purpose, this aspiration striving for enlightenment.
Oh, that one that Nimbani Noah. That Nimbani Denis Sundon Jawala, that Chanju says, that Nimba Tendini Sundi Chanju Tosin Giovanna, other Chanju says, Nimba Denis Sundi Chanju says,
yeah, so once a main mind that is the mixture, once the main mind that is the union of these two types of aspirations, that main mind is called bodhicitta.
Oh, that indeed Nimbani Latin, they can that Sunday Chanju say, 그 장주 세세와다 원래의 레그레데 다 준비 맹아 뒤다 다시 나지 고는 뜻로 동이 맹아 니라 때다 간다 장주 세디 줄라 제고 근데 고도마 다 준비 맹아 뒤다 화상받은 로사로와 준비 맹아 뒤다 다시 나지 고는 로 장와라 때니 다 맹아 니라고 장주 준비 맹아 뒤기 맹아 치스바지 다시 나지도 맹아 치스바지 야 때니 맹아 니라 때니 그 장주 세고 줄라 제고 에세 도도 라바이나 두스마 차좀 지고 와 내가 니나 되게 제 예서 내가 지다 진짜 내가 되게 내가 지야샤 내 다기 나지 불모자 내가 지야샤 간다 자주 세대 내가 니 되니가 때에 자주 세대 제고래 마도 내가 니가 마대 나 자주 세대 제답 그러요 말았어 내가 세워대 모두 실상이 봐
So in order to generate bodhicitta, then we have to then we have to train our mind in these two instructions. So the two instructions that we have previously talked about, the 7 cause and effect, and equalizing and exchanging oneself with others. So these two instructions, we have to train our mind based on it. Then one will be able to generate bodhicitta in one's mind. So if we do not train our mind based on these two instructions, there is no way one can develop bodhicitta.
that's the issue. That is under Nina and the Mashuga consider what it is. Chanchu telling him, Lord John was and as such Nibashua. That did a man and what do wrong him and what do it. That Chanchu telling him, Lord John was it such Niba Mashu. I should repeat the nation that Chanchu people on the top of the Bachu in Mesa. And also, I should repeat the nation that Shendela changed to Bala, so that she didn't lose Mondo Savage. She didn't on Road Savage. That Road Savage, she turned to Bala, so to be the young about the Chanju talked about 2 words. Then told the Chanju Tanagin to buy as well. That Chanju Tanagin Dimba, Jebala, Tandu, Chanju Tanagin Dimba, Pitabu Jebala, Karugu, as that and just dwelling at it. Chanju Tanagin Dimba, Jebala. Dimba the Abu Jebala, Karugu was not. Get on Machobi, that Jandu because not Jandu because she because Zombie Chanju turned the name Dimba the Pitabu Yabu Jiola, the Zombie Sanji did it, Kusutuji did it, to the Kusutu did the shameless. Kusutuji did, Queen, the Songo, the Tuji, the Trinity, the Nishiwa, not the Pijano of Shiva, Queen, the Songo, the Tuji, the Trinity, the Shis, that I'm the
So what I have mentioned just now is related to this outline training in the mind striving for enlightenment. So once you're encouraged by the steps explained so far and realize that enlightenment is necessary for the welfare of others, you will also develop the desire to attain it. However, that in itself is not sufficient. So as the steps explained so far referring to aspiration striving for the welfare of others, then you also have to develop the desire to attain it. So and how do I develop aspiration striving for enlightenment? Then at the beginning, you must increase your faith through thinking about the excellent qualities of the exalted body, exalted speech, exalted mind, and enlightened activities, as they were explained above in the context of going for refuge. So previously, when we talk about going for refuge, then these excellent qualities of body, speech, excellent body, speech, and mind, and enlightened activities, these 4 types of qualities have already explained. So you must increase your faith through thinking about this.
That did it. Want to charge the legend Dimba de Pitabu Yabuji, and Dimba de Chiola Karagu Resna. They don't be charged with the name Dimba de Chiola Karagu Resna. Don't be Sanji, Tigi, Kui, and then Song in the Tuji, the Trinity, the Soyabuji, Sanji, Kui, Chashi, the Soyabu Shebaina. They buy Abuji, yes, that's good woman wish that. Sanji Kui did that says I'm a Sunjitani, you are. Kui in this order says I'm a Sunjitani also much. That's Song in this order, Sanji is Song in this order, Sanji be true and the Nina Wangazo, a decent of Chichina, Chiji share with it. This genre look at me, Devina, that someone pay go to Vachi,
Sangiro,
or Sanji is not the leisure. Tar and do me, but someone pay cheaper go to edge. The new indeed, you work on the song in this one. Roa, with the new year. Kui did that says I'm Susan, that's a Mamoroa. 然贵人的贵人身上不是当你做毛不有啊？我就说话，我da送人的是都行哇，那等不等你了哇
？So in order to generate aspiration, striving for enlightenment, then what do we need? Then we have to know, we have to properly know the 4 types of excellent qualities of perfect, complete enlightened beings. So the 4 qualities are the quality of exalted body, speech, mind, and enlightened activities. So by knowing these 4 qualities, then faith will develop. So, for example, the excellent quality of body is 32 major marks, for example, and the exalted speech quality is the speech referring to the speech of the Buddha. Like, for example, if Buddha give teachings in a VC, then regardless how far or how near you are, you can hear the teachings. So that is one of the excellent quality of exalted speech.
他的途径前边的资源的是都讲这个是吧？前者的是原的，但都讲本身就各个可能前边的资源的对上就没前边有个是吧？前边有个这但反正的上面一点点其他都那在不但说这个嘛是吧？他途径的就是上面一点点年纪是你忙不见
什么意思嘅？
上面一点点年纪，你咋就他点些就忙不觉得，但是先忙不过去，他前边在上嘛是吧？他刚才前边有的是比较的前边的资源的，这是什么前边是吐了，是吧？但成年人的时候呢，我说，对家说看到没把看到对不对？去干的对不对？他妈呗，上去可能个吐气的话，对家是这样的，可能成年人的，是吧？成年人的是呢，我说成年的了呗，他让你现在就是他忙不下来，是吧？我的是想嘛多，看到等到的人，是吧？成年人的时候呢，对家说呗。가르 누구나 배 카다 내가 참아 정말 지금 힘이 돈 그 상지 둘을 치는 때 간다 강나 강대 되기 때문에 트레이닝 됐어 뭐든지
And then the excellent quality of exalted mind. Exalted mind is the omniscient mind and also the love attitudes towards the disciples, towards sentient beings. So those are subsumed under the excellent quality of exalted mind, so the omniscient mind and the loves, the affections, etc. And the excellent quality of enlightened activities is the omniscient mind knowing exactly the interest, knowing exactly the mental capability, tendency of the disciples, and give teachings according to it. Then that is the enlightened activities quality.
我听的是，当我这边就刚才在看到的现在现在开始呢，长期等的就明白电影吧，是吧？对吧？那长期等的明白的比到位，要不就结巴了，都比长期等的确切的切话是呢，前些人的效果好的。
讲出去，
都长期的上级的公园上级的话，但是等的都比长期上级恐怕得平等那样了。那上级时候的看的就对了，前些看的，对了，确切看的，对了，你不看的没？过了你不看的没？送了你不看的没？吐了你不看的没？就是什么的先把人呢？对了，等于就明白对了，修结果那个就是个是，这些呢，对了，一些电话的那个也是上级了，过了，过了一些的电话送了，不是吐了一些电话的，你电话的那个也是。那电话的出全部也不要不呢？这那就明白这些过来，电话的来话了，上级就故意的，故送出去，用这个前些的切话的时候嘛，些不呢？这电话的那个嘛了，我说个Lama这个电话一那个呢，Lama这个故送出去用的是没有呢？对呀，我们都不的这个电话，你是不是有的是来讲呢？别你节省上的，你说电话提前我了嘛？都我说熊钱不了，弄成几年了，你电话的我嘛了吧？熊钱不了，弄成几年是的，你个别兄弟的是来讲当时，我说老师电话接头个嘛了吧？接头嘛了吧？我这接头嘛，这个是电话接吧？我们都过的，我们都过哪里？是吧？我这工作，所以个大家搞钱嘛，就电话接的，都往这哪里？
So why do we talk about this is in order to generate the aspiration striving for enlightenment, and this enlightenment referring to the Buddhahood or enlightenment. So in order to develop this aspiration striving for enlightenment, then we have to know the qualities or the attributes of enlightenment. We also have to know well the ability of Buddha, so the ability in terms of exalted body, speech, and mind. And also we have to understand the greatness of enlightenment or the greatness of Buddha. So by knowing well these qualities, greatness, and ability, then faith will arise. So the faith that we previously have mentioned, the faith of conviction, the faith of admiration, etc. So faith arise, then then it will serve as the basis for the aspiration to arise. First, we develop faith, then we develop aspirations. So it is just like develop faith in one's guru. So you have to know the qualities this guru possesses, right? So if you do not check and find out the qualities a particular guru possesses, then you just when other people say that, oh, this guru or this lama is a great lama, is a high lama, then you just believe it, then you develop faith in it, then that is not the right way to this is the way to develop this is the way how adult faculties disciples will develop their faith. So us studying texts and etc., then have knowledge, then we shouldn't develop faith in a guru, for example, just hearing others saying that, oh, this lama is a high lama. So we who have been studying texts and great texts, then we shouldn't develop faith just by hearing others saying that this is a high lama. Otherwise, then we will be categorized as adult faculty as well.
치와스나 차시든 가서 치와스 다 나오는 걸 만들어서 그 치와의 차시도 야부지 심바이나 왔다 대바 도도면 이치 도도면 봐지 내고 다 간다 다 대바 도도면 봐 이치 도도면 봐 비다보지 내고 대띠 비다보지 내봐 나시 대대니 dim바데 비다보지 내고다 좋아 안 dim바데 비다보지 내오디 대 dim바데 비다보지 내오디 대대라 쩐지데 비다보지 내고 다 간다 상지 공부 전도니 dim바데 레오데 전도니 dim바데 레오데 또 상지시 공부데 토야를 치래 또 매제 전도 휴치문데 전도 휴치문데 레바이나 또 가르 두구나 연대 또바 가르지라 지네 지 두고 나가다 지 두요 좋아 저 담아다 핀지 두서 로단 시오다 좋아 당보배 나서 제사데 단데 가서 가도 지다 찬상을 잡으래 단데 가도 장지 되는 좀 dim바하세 이게 제 시고는 와 니께오데 장주 되는 dim바디 용발 가밀었대 도와 네 나리 콜론도와 옌데라 장주 토기만 토나 예 토바 내가 지와 이메 왠자 대장지 뭐초 이 말에 대단히 이 말에 쓰고 와 다 가르고르스나 맞아 짠도 가서 시사로 와대 오네 다른 바 로다도 시바 누마 뭐지 넣어서데 당부 이치지 대바 내발라 कोई इंडिया सुन ये तो जो इंडिया तो काके माशे का देवा जैसा ये वो बुद्धि बोले इस तरह की लासा नहीं बा है ना ये लामा पे चीज़ ना दिला कोई इंडिया सुन ये तो जो ये ट्रेन जो ये काके जी सोचो को माची ना देवा जैसा ना तंग इन्हें वांटे ना वो देवा दे वो दे ताते गांसो ये शोन चेंबो लोजो जी सोंसा ये सामागी काला लोजों तो ने उसे बिगी दाशा चीने तो मैंने ये ने दुबुंदु चेवा चेबो वा 오디 다들 시에서 들다 왔다 너님마 림바 자라네 당보 조비 장주 되는 좀 림바데 제발라 조비 장주 되라 고이인데 소위데 투지는 진행이 인데 저기 야보지 신바이나 저기 신우데 이치다 대바 도도는 가지 되는 된다 들다 이치다 대바 야보 슈체부 레우데 되라 되는 좀 림바데 레우 되는 좀 림바데 피다보 레우데 되라 제스트리 레우 India Mali Zindu generation, that's into the level that you do Maliba Sanji Kumba Toya, Topa Chichi, Cardin, Chana, Zindu Jess level. What that the kitchen would work. They was someone ship.
So it's very so because of here it says that once you are encouraged by the steps explained so far and realize that enlightenment is necessary for the welfare of others, you will also develop the desire to attain it. However, that in itself is not sufficient. So why is it not sufficient? Because you need something else. So that is, at the beginning, you must increase your faith through thinking about the excellent qualities of the exalted body, speech, and mind, and enlightened activities, as they were explained in the context of going for refuge. So, because of this, therefore, since that faith is set to act as the basis for your aspiration, you generate a wish to attain those qualities from the depths of your heart, and then will induce certainty that the achievement of omniscience is indispensable also for your own welfare. So, in relation to this paragraph, that's why I mentioned about in order to develop aspiration, striving for enlightenment, then we have to know well the qualities of enlightenment or Buddhahood. So the quality of exalted body, speech, and mind, and enlightened activities of Buddha. So the greatnesses of enlightenment or Buddhahood, and the ability, and also the attributes or the qualities of enlightenment. So by knowing those points well, then the faith and belief that we will develop is irreversible. So the belief and convictions that we will develop is irreversible. Then similarly, we will develop on the basis of belief and faith, then we will develop the aspiration, striving for the purpose, the striving aspiration. So on the basis of faith and belief, then we develop a striving aspiration. And on the basis of that, then effort will come. So effort to achieve the state of enlightenment will come. And the effort is of great one. So we develop this great effort to achieve the state of enlightenment. So, and what follows the great efforts to achieve the state of enlightenment is the achievement of qualities and achievement of realizations. So be it a big realization or small realization, it follows effort. So this is how it goes from the first one, faith and belief, then followed by aspiration, and then followed by effort, and then followed by the achievement. So this is how we should develop our faith, develop our aspirations. If not, if we just hear that, oh, this Lama is good without checking properly, without checking whether this guru has the quality as advertised or not, then the faith that we develop will be the faith that we develop is of doubt faculties. So we must use our intelligence and etc. to check whether the guru has such qualities or not. Then only we develop faith.
Yendi mali tsundu jinishi pati dawa traba nga zo oman jiba nga suya wa yendi mali pada nga zo tsundu yabo sheba na tsundu tegi jesi nese wa pati dawa traba oman jiba la suya
pati yomaro
wa pati dawa traba ki ta jaka kiba sanji boche barwa oma ta oma nga zo pe sawa shere pe wa yodo mi di shagwa wa pati dawa traba ki oman jiba la yendi mali tsundu jindu hize Yendi Maliba Zindu Jesse Ese. Oh, Yendi Kasu Topa Chichu Kandi Chiguna, then it's Zindu take Jess Zindu Yabu Javana,
yeah. So Chandrakirti in his Entering the Middle Way, that is a commentary on the fundamental wisdom. Then Chandrakirti says, all qualities follow efforts. All qualities follows effort. So another way of saying this is, having effort, then we will be able to, if we have effort, then we will be able to develop big and small qualities.
다 디지털 가서 다 간다. 단단도 장다데 준비는가 되고 나서 마로 장다도 기시 싫어. 와. 그래서 다 간다. 다 뭐야 고도 뭐야. 다 당연히 이제 마고마 진짜마 진짜서 샤바 니지 하상. 때도서 다 조동 조사를 와. 조사 다 디지털 장주고 센 레프센시에서 당 가서 점빈 레프센시에서 와서 다 되게 와.
So up to this point, then we have covered we are in the context of 7 cause and effect. So starting from develop the equality or the equanimous mind, and then seeing sentient beings as one's mother, remembering their kindness, wishing to repay their kindness, love, compassion, and altruistic mind. So all these are in the context of 7 cause and effect. Then identifying the bodhicitta that is the result of that training. So the result is of this training is bodhicitta.
다 디카서 먼저 배 장주고 세배 제당人바다 준비 명아 디고 로당다 다진나지 불로 장다 니가 디소마 리비오레 다던데 장주 세원이 장 라리 카도 리고 참아 디칼 다 도나야 제로 시스와 먼저 배 개체도 근데 무슨 진짜든 그 시비 참대 장주고 세 장 다시 다 명아 다지 공도 쉬는 봐 명아 니가 되네 다 장주 세고 빌려 줘 버려서 명아 지디 준비 명아 디나샤 명아 지디 다진난지 명아 디나샤 다 간다 명아 세워다 장주고 세 좋아하고 준비 명아 세워다 장주고 세 질려 지어고 탑시지 뭐 고다 최대 보지 탑시지 와 이디 차고 장주 세 질려 지어고 탑시 탑 그냥 두고 다 간다 와 왜 니지래 성당 와 당어서 보대 보지.
Yeah, so up to this point, then it's very important because it talks about the method to develop bodhicitta. So I encourage all of you to continue to pay attention to it, because in order to develop bodhicitta, then we have to rely on 2 instructions. So instructions, or another way of saying this is 2 methods. So that we have to rely on these 2 methods, 7 cause and effect, and the second one is equalizing and exchanging oneself with others. So it's very important. So you must continue to pay great attention to it.
당어서 대 간다 장주고 세니에다가 막 진짜 창의 레벨로 와. 내가 가서 진짜 장주고 세데 세제당의 생기 장가다 변자문다 망부지요래. 당어서 도동다부터 봐. 간다 고단 트래시 도동다 강 수주두지 이제 막 강투두지도 소야 이러와. 내가 가서 막 디지 제시를 보지. 다 장주고 세데 네가 막 맞아 디지 라사마 조보 만들어 제시를 보지. 디지 야부르지 참아 고대 인처 투나 지고와 네배 개청보와 답답버 리징하고 장주지 세고를 장주지 세고에서 장주지 보다 많이 봐이나 이 장주지 세고야 이거 뭐와 오데 오데디 개청보 수다 다 참아 내가 도나야 고대로 지고 배 야부 슐레시가 뒤창 디 좋아요나 좋아 당시 좋아면 되니 이제 걸 맞지 좋아 있어 장주지 세고마.
So we always talk about cultivating bodhicitta. We have to cultivate bodhicitta. So in order to cultivate bodhicitta, we have to know the way to cultivate it, right? So here, at this point, we are talking about the method to develop bodhicitta. So it's very important. So otherwise, without knowing it, then there is no way one can develop a bodhicitta. So that's why I take I take my time to explain about the bodhicitta, the method to develop bodhicitta without going through quickly, so that in hope of wishing everyone, in the hope of wishing all of us understand well how to develop bodhicitta. That's why I take it slow and take my time to explain how to the information about developing bodhicitta. So if you have any questions, then you can ask now. Then if you do not have any questions, then I will proceed. Continue.
Gishila, I have a question about the method of developing the meditation sequence in developing love, and then after that, the sequence to develop compassion. When in love, we actually start with stranger, because if we start with dear ones, there will be attachment because they are our loved ones. When it comes to compassion, we said to start with dear ones, then only come with stranger. I wonder whether the element of attachment to dear ones so strong, you're so emotional, want to free them from suffering, whether it should be like love, we start with stranger because it's indifference. We want to free stranger from suffering, then second come to our dear ones. What is your thought? Thanks.
So the Lamrim di oro isla. Jamba di Lamrim di ngacu tham toma di yu di kasa pamare. Jamba ki Lamrim ni di thambo ngacu di pamare isa. Di na isla.
Di saya mada. Jamba di ngacu di saya no kazi.
Jamba ki Lamrim thambo di yu di kari.
Di ngacu di hara saya ba.
Initially on love for your friends and relatives. Yeah. Kongi any so the referring to this text, the stages of meditation on love are to meditate initially on love for your friends and relatives, then for neutral ones. So then your question say that the sequence to cultivate love, then first start with stranger.
In Geshe-la teaching, it actually starts with stranger because we have no attachment in the teaching.
그래서 Geshe-la 디 디시 교육가라 담보는 아주 파마라 디 참바디 공부를 해서
말이 데 가지 라리네 가지 데로 소에 봐 휴바 정보 담문자 시프라 다로
간이스나 디 파마이나 아주 디 되참이나 공기
데로 말이 가지 다로 치유바 통만자 시랑레스 디 파마 샴바든지 참마 다로 레스 나서 카시 때 땅용마 보다라 디지 마다 야 땅용스 뭐야라 나서 냠도 보야다 레레네 공마마 린치 보야스네 니 체번이 샤고로 와 땅용이 되 쉬유바 땅용 가서 땅용 가서 그 자라니 파마 순간 딘도 샤네 뜻로 림바소 치고 레스 또 림바소 치고 때 토마 자라니 거야 되네 아마 되네 자시라 공바세
고다 아니 디 림바다 냠도로 땅용 가서
냠도 보나래 때 땅보자라 미네 권다지 야 네 라리 가서 린지기도 막 권다지 니시고 지당 가서 권다다 림바니요 라임 바카시 오 근데 냠도 미네 권다지다 린지기도 권다지 나다 린지기도 막 권야데 시오이 단다 샴바니게데 내가 자시랑 샴바니게 sama 기발했습니다.
저 공당이네 디 림바니요레 지 인양도 공야다 아니 지 디 린젠도라와 아니 디 람림나 디 린젠도 되셔버
린젠도에서 같이 땅용 권다라 제가 니 샤고 된지나 땅용 권다라 담보배 아마라 공마 권야지 나도 땅용도 공부디 이 신체 수가 손배 수수고 뉴 상황단에 권야지
디 인양도 저거라
이 뉴나 신체 수가 배 수수고 가사치다 마가치다 아마 순간에 냠도 샤니지 따오디 때베스 대수가 냠도 따오디 때 수수편으로 자동모스 순간 딜리버로 와
땅용으로 와
땅용 갈래 시에서 근데 샴바데 니제 갈 등이 저거로 로에서 땅용 갈래 본다 좀 봐지 니시에
So when we also develop this equanimous mind, then in this context, and I talk about there are two ways to do the meditations. One is to meditate simultaneously. So to meditate three persons in front of oneself, enemy, friends, and stranger. And the second way to develop it is to develop gradually, and as what is mentioned in Lamrim text. So then in the context of developing equanimous mind, then first you, in terms of gradual meditations, then you start with neutral persons. That is in the context of equanimous mind. So, and in terms of love and compassion, love and compassion, then we talk about first, then
okay. I'm mistaken, sorry, Geshe-la. It's equanimity.
Yeah, that is right. Yeah, so in the equanimity, then first start with stranger. Yeah. So it's love, compassion, etc. Then start with friends, as what mentioned in the Lamrim text. Yeah, so in the context of developing equanimous mind, then we visualize three persons in front of us. One is beloved one, then another one is enemy, another one is stranger. So then this is the group meditation that you can, so basically you meditate simultaneously, the simultaneous meditation. So you visualize them at the same time. Then in relation to each, then you have different attitudes, right? So then first you take enemy to develop the equanimous mind, then followed by another two persons. So in general, to develop this attitude, then there are two ways. One is simultaneous, another one is gradual. So then in terms of gradual meditations, then Lamrim and other several texts, then they first start with neutral. So then the second type of meditation is simultaneous meditations, then start with enemy.
Thank you, Krishna.
Yeah, so if you don't have any questions, then I will continue. So identifying the bodhicitta that is the result of that training, the general definition is taught in Ornament for Clear Knowledge. Bodhicitta is the desire for perfect, complete enlightenment for the welfare of others. So this is a very famous and very common definitions of bodhicitta, that in the three great monasteries, even those very young ones, they're able to they memorize the general definitions of bodhicitta. So bodhicitta is the desire for perfect, complete enlightenment for the welfare of others. And in these definitions itself, it already expresses the nature of bodhicitta and the two types of aspirations: the aspiration striving for the welfare of others and aspiration striving for enlightenment. So please keep this in your mind.
That Chanju says well, that point she was Limbani the Debe, the Limbani Sibe, the Chanju says or Limbani the Simba that the Shusaiba. Chanju says or Limbani the Sose, and the Chanju says the Sose, the Senju to sit that she will. Kasi Shunga Chanju said that the Senju to be Shinke, you're the Hina, and Dimbala Kanta Migitani. Sinjela kanda jimi migitani tu sheba zamato ngoyne zhe chanju se de ta zo se rong sha
dimba de yang simjung se yor be
o dimba de simjung wa dimba simjung wa
dimba de simjung re ini de ka za jiangju sim de da zo se dai
zo se rong
yeah, so bodhicitta must be endowed with two aspirations. Then the bodhicitta is the main mind and aspirations are the mental factors.
That's the Chanju Sin edition, Dimbani Saint Lichua. That is should survive. That demanded Uda Dumbo Mendolema, that Chanju Saint Ola, that way when a Bashi Baina, that members in Jubas and she is in Niam, that way when in a members with Jubas and she. That was to Shun Kashinala, Amudilla.
So it is classified into two, aspiring and engaging bodhicitta. So in classified in terms of the nature, then there are two. One is aspiring, another one is engaging bodhicitta.
That's shown Kajin also, and Jubas Angela, she distinguishes the tiny distant
You seems that the
Jubas and Katu Maloba Jenny, or the league also shown Zulia. Shanju said the number the Shanju the members that Shanju the chip says Chassi chip. That did game with the Chassi chip. Or the year Dumbo given Dole to somebody that Tani meet is the manner of the other one in Jubas. Chassi chip. 5 would be chip say. Shanju the chip is.
想去是切别什么的，
就是了。
哦，切别。
甚至来讲，做members，我一个人 members 的就不是就是你拿去用的都是多。但熊现在他那里有落地的，东北这边多都做了干的，想去的切别是。对，有了
啊，切别什么的，可以了，
做做
可以了，哦。รับ切别sem 하고 맞는데
아니 좋아 사실 손이시야
맞어รับ切别sem
당 모이고는 가는 주파수의 members 니요네스
that's all. So in terms of nature, then is classified into two, aspiring and engaging bodhicitta. So in other texts, like for example compendium of trainings or in the marvelous array sutra, then they might use another terminology. So, however, it refers to engaging bodhicitta.
Members in Jubas, ni we go to members in Jubas. That doesn't also change to say, Pedro, the big when she van Nistan, that's so Mambuji. That is so that Achi, we share Mabuda to the Sinji Nishitani, big when Pedro when Nishitani, you are this year. Or big when Nishitani, or what to Jilma, Tavaina, Mazumo to Jaka, Tambongoli, Siji, Shuloga, Siji to Shure. They are such a dog, that I'm drinking to Dodger emotion, the beginning of the month, Jabba, Jimba, Danny to number Nishitani, Sijini. In Jagoto Jin, Walla, Sanji Nishitani,
Sinji Nishitani,
or Nishitan big with Nishitani to share. That day, Chidanga, Dinma Katmaya, Montana, Shimabuna, China, Wato Jina, China, Loguna, 괜찮은 것도 제가 당분간은 요래. 와, 가 당분간은 이나는 요래 세진이 있잖니 마 정관을 거.
So 이 장주의 셈지 토네로.
빼로 빼다. 뭐이 마요시는 주파수가 멤버스지 니세. 뭘 마셔야 돼. 빼고는 마셔야 돼.
이제 셈지
니세. 빼도 진리지 모르겠어.
So in terms of nature, then is divided into two: aspiring and engaging bodhicitta. So in terms of example, then is divided into 22. So 22 types of sentient beings. So if you want to know further, then you can refer to ornament of clear knowledge. Yeah, ornament of clear knowledge or ornament of clear realizations. Then in the first chapter, then there are two verses talks about the 22 types of sentient beings. That is in terms of example.
다 계시시 또 가서 오 시고야 돼. 멤버스는 주파수지 니네래. 다 니네만 가서 지바지 쉬어요. 와.
기분. 되게 상상인데.
상상이 다 뒤지고
지비시.
뒤지고.
가리 기바시아 얘기죠.
주파수는 멤버스는 막. 문제는 막.
Yeah. So yeah. 그래서 그 베이고네 베이고네네 디제마디 기바시아이나 나타나는 거 워기고네.
베이고에 다 유셨어. 뭐이고네 신의 멤버스 주파수니.
단다 기바시아이.
다 드니마시아 있어.
맞아.
멤버스.
맞아. 건다. 맞아. Yeah, so I will continue to explain how to say aspiring and in terms of nature.
Sheila, can I ask? Commonly, sometimes when we are beginners, we were told there are two types of bodhicitta, conventional and ultimate bodhicitta. This classification in relation to today's teaching, can Sheila elaborate a little bit?
讲句있습니다. 저 대지단讲句있습니다. 시비가 완 군족讲句있습니다.短讲句있습니다. 시리오레스. 아니 대니 이니와 제단 대당 대인지 로센 대와 간다스.
그래서 바이에다 만다 요래 생각서 장주 전다 신제다 장주 군족 장주 세서와데 제 제리 거네. 맞아. 예당 망보여 장주 세서가 마 예당 망보여. 전다 장주 세서 원래 장주 세서 자꾸 세서 자고요 말.
전다
장주 세서. 제 제리 예당. 예와 카카레스. 제 제리 바다시. 제 제리 거니나 군족 장주 세서 전다 장주 세서 미요. 다데 전다 장주 세서 봐. 제 바다래 마도 원래 장주 세서 자고요 말.
전다 장주 있습니다.
전다 장주 세서.
이제 군족 장주 있습니다. 얘네 장주 셈바 대문이 돼요.
원래 장주 세서 들어와.
这绝把藏节嘛都讲句以生月的嘛了。
我这绝把藏团的讲句是的，不是自己捏死了吧？这一节讲句过来，这一节的讲句，工作讲句是
明大了。
明大了嘛都。我呢，我就申请个怕业务的，但我一个呢，但没把申请就把申请谈了。我一个呢嘛业务的申请，我可能业务的，没把申请就把申请捏了个。我一个人，我就做大事，我一个人嘛，甚至的话可能就到了。那这等到讲就是的，工作讲就写出的，这节里就过来嘛，也当。这节里上就过来嘛，业务的，这等到就写的，工作讲就写是你一个人是。但是常来的，这节里过来嘛，也当。这我一个人，我就没把事情就把事情我一个人嘛，申请过了，我一个人嘛，也话还是对的。我一个人也话你嘛都要嘛。短到上就是的，工作上就写出来的，这节里过来也话是对的事，非常好。长城没也当忙不了的，那得写过来长的，过段车路现在的就写出来。
So, in general, when we talk about bodhicitta, there are many ways to divide. There are many ways to divide bodhicitta. So, the conventional bodhicitta and ultimate bodhicitta that you have just mentioned, then it is a division of etymology. So, or is divisions of expressions, or is a divisions of etymology. So, in fact, So, ultimate bodhicitta. So, ultimate bodhicitta is just given the name bodhicitta. So, it's just labeled it as bodhicitta, but it's not the bodhicitta that we are talking about. So the bodhicitta that we are talking about right now in this context, referring to this bodhicitta, then in terms of nature, then is divided into aspiring and engaging bodhicitta. So this is the main divisions. This is the bodhicitta that we are talking about in this context. So the bodhicitta that you mentioned just now, conventional and ultimate bodhicitta, then that is another type of divisions of bodhicitta. So the divisions of expressions or etymology. They doing this. They jury go nina they turn down.
members with the Jubas with me shower. That's in Jitlape, a say Jesus Gune, Charaj Gune, Yedam Moboy, Yedam Moboy. Then also Dodo share the pitch on the Kadu Wibu by Yedam Budua. The book of the Majestan Livuati, change Luta.
So besides that, and there are many ways to divide a bodhicitta. However, the main divisions of bodhicitta that we should look into right now is this in terms of nature, aspiring and engaging bodhicitta. So there are many ways to divide bodhicitta. There are many divisions of bodhicitta. So it can be divided in terms of nature, in terms of example, in terms of boundary, in terms of expressions, or terminological expressions. Yeah, terminological expressions. It can be in terms of the way to develop bodhicitta as well. So there are many divisions of bodhicitta.
That's the chance of the chance and two chance of the Mesro. That's all we go to my members in Jubas in his order. That Dilmasha. I know you put those tendencies in the Yonda. That tendencies at the Mazo, Chidama, Level was toning using to be hit Vigila, and that's just a mitaja. And that's just a mitaja. When it changes to say, anybody is not married. And that's just what I want to Sujila Yomari, Sujila Yomari, toning using to be. That's interesting.
Doing also the
Only listen to be Hitila, Shagore mother, Manzo, Suzuki, Yomar, that's interesting. Chance Tonaba, Jonah, Tujila Yomar. I shall say Tonaba, the Yasin.
Tonambayo.
Tonan Sunday, Satamun Sunday, Sanji Sabati Yorkana.
Yeah. So how's it the common divisions of bodhicitta, conventional bodhicitta and ultimate bodhicitta? Then the ultimate bodhicitta is not the fully qualified bodhicitta that we are talking about. So it's not the fully qualified bodhicitta that we are talking about. And ultimate bodhicitta we will talk about in the context of special insight or the wisdom. So in fact, this ultimate bodhicitta refers to wisdom directly realizing emptiness. So this ultimate bodhicitta doesn't exist in the mind stream of ordinary beings. It only exists in the mind stream of the being who achieve a path of seeing, basically from the first ground up to the ground of bodhicitta, ground of Buddhahood.
That three days, Jill, Tang on the Sinjik word ma, share is raw.
So we stop here, and then next class we are going to talk about the nature of aspiring and engaging bodhicitta. Yes.
Hang on the these are one dilating a chicken by Jabal and what they were. That was a jungle jumbo to the things you change the massage of color. See you about the body should be Jabatan. Ranjan and Akadi, Abaji, Jajilama Sagorum was true. That on the two bullshit 관여 뭐 개미 힘들도 받아 그때 받은 거이지도 그때 힘들 때 봐. 그 디지파 뭐 제지나 그런다 benzanin 앞에 강에 최신 봐 마투다 니야한테 된도와 마투다 니야한테 봐 근데봐 뉴도 파도야 뉴도 파도야다 난 중요하시 내가 뭐부리보다 주인지 봐 메인지 봐 사용도 뭐부리보다 나도 봐 많이 와기 또 와서 뭐 하면 지야 저 디치로와
We conclude with dedication. We dedicate the roots of virtue that we have accumulated, especially through these Dhamma discussions, to the flourishing of Buddha Dharma and to the excellent happiness of all sentient beings. We also dedicate these roots of virtue to upholders of the Buddha's teachings in the 10 directions represented by His Holiness Dalai Lama. So may they live eons long in excellent health, and may their enlightened activities and holy wishes be accomplished instantaneously. We also dedicate these roots of virtue, particularly to our beloved teacher, Kyabsha Lama Sopa Rinpoche, who is very kind to us. May Rinpoche quickly recover from the manifest sickness and live eons long, excellent health, and may Rinpoche's enlightened activities and holy wishes be accomplished instantaneously. And we also dedicate these roots of virtue for the troubles that happens all around the world. The main one is a pandemic, wars and conflict, and also disaster caused by disintegrations of 4 elements, such as water, fire elements. So may these troubles be pacified immediately.
Dāgī jīnyē sāmbē
Gīwā dī tīndāṃ rūwā kūnlā kāmbē tāṃ kīpā jīsū lōsāṃ rāpā yī tīmbē nīmbō rīndō sē jē shū jāchū sēmchō rīmbō jī mā kē pānā kī kyū jī kīpā nyāmbā mē pāyāṃ tōne kūndō bē wā shū jāmbē bāwē chītā kīmbā tāṃ kūndō sāmbō tēyāṃ tēshīn tē tētā kūgī jīsū tāsō jī kīwā tētā tāṃ jē rāb dō ngō kūgī tāwā rīmbō jī mā kē pānā kī kyū jī kīpā nyāmbā mē pāyāṃ tōne kūndō bē wā Rimye tawa rinpoche make pana ki gyuji keba nyamba me paya une kondo bewa sho yenjambe gewe densi gyombe we kusu dobo se chusun kowe leme duju ba taso duje gendo shate sho inje sundu jube lang chise sise kanche tenyo ge chana pimo tenzi gazo la sowa deso shende rendo sho kante pende malu ba kante jungwe sambe yishindo katin sume tenzi gazo la sowa deso duje rendo
Thank you.
Thank you, Geshe-la. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Geshe-la. Ken.
Thank you, Geshe-la. Thank you, Ken. Thank you all.
Thank you.